I'm Soho.
You're who?
I'm Soho.
A Soho. I'm Sanna.
And we're on break for 15 minutes.
Let's go.
So we're gonna do another Reddit story because we like Reddit. By the way, Sanna is taking another break. She's leaving us for another 4 weeks. So Brian will be filling in again. I will try to convince Brian to wear more sexy clothes, but you know, he's a good Mormon boy, so I don't think he's going to do that. JK kidding. He's not a good Mormon boy. He's not a Mormon boy at all. But I just don't think he wants to be a slut quite yet. I haven't convinced him to do that because
it's too much explaining.
He's a virgin. Just kidding. He's not a virgin. Anyways, today we're going to talk about prenups. How do you feel about prenups?
I feel like I have two parts in my brain. One that like makes sense and one that's just like emotion. And like, if you love me, why would you have a prenup with me? Yeah. But then also it's like, it's a document. It opens up a lot of good conversations, I think. And done in the right way and setting, I think you can make it work.
Yeah. I think with a prenup, people shouldn't take advantage of each other. And as long as it's a fair agreement. Yeah. And I also feel like with prenups, you should be able to revise them every once in a while. So like prenup and then a postnup and then another postnup, like as your family grows. I think it keeps people accountable and it's kind of a good.
But at the same time, like I thought about this with prenups. If you write a prenup and then like you write it as you are in love and like la la la, would you like you would want to revisit it, right?
Yeah, I think
does that make any sense at all?
My thing is I want to revisit a prenup when you're on good terms, like do a postnup, because as you grow, you financially grow together. And so that's why I think it's just healthy to distinguish what assets are protected and what assets are separate and what assets are joint assets.
Yes, and I think that makes sense. So, I was just saying, like, if you have very complex prenups that you make when you're in like a honeymoon phase, would you could you potentially accidentally screw your future self over by agreeing to things that because
that's why I think everyone should put a clause that this prenup will be void. You know, there will be a postnup at this date, drafted up this date. Once that is revisited, terms are revisited, the prenup is void. Like, I think that's a good term to put in. I don't treat prenups as like, you don't trust me, you don't love me, blah, blah. I treat it as a business transaction. I think it's very healthy to revisit financial assets and just kind of figure out, okay, my business assets are separate from yours and these are joint assets, and just I feel like it's a good financial conversation to me personally.
Yeah. Well, especially if there is a lot of assets in the picture. If you don't have any, then you can make like a postnup, right? About future assets. Yeah. Because like if you're both getting married and you're starting at square one.
Right.
Then like.
And you know,
can you talk about like hypothetical future assets?
Yes, I believe you can talk about them in the prenup. You can also talk about like you can put like different terms. A prenup is not just like you get nothing if we get divorced. A prenup is basically just a set of rules and a discussion about what the expectations are for the future. So in terms of financial assets. So I feel like with the prenup, you can also do like, let's say you can also put terms like, okay, if we were to split like in 1 year, no assets. And then by year, the percentage that you'll get will increase or like that kind of stuff. And then you can also put a clause where by the 10th year of marriage, the prenup will be void and null and void. And, and will follow the state's laws of, you know, after that point therein. So like prenups are not just you get nothing.
You can customize them.
You can get like creative with the prenup. You can
see some messed up prenups.
Yeah, I mean, like that's what I'm saying. Always get an attorney when you get a prenup, for sure. If you don't know what you're agreeing to, read through every single line. Yeah. You can also put a cheating clause in there, like if you cheat, this prenup is null and void. And you can put anything in it. The only thing you can't put in prenups is because you can put like a wait clause in prenups too, which I think is kind of
I've seen that.
But
you can't do custody stuff, right?
You can't do anything regarding children in a prenup or a postnup, because anything involving children has to be decided by the courts of the state to protect children. So children are not collateral in your prenup.
Yeah, you can't be like
I'm
if you cheat, I get Sebastian.
Yeah, it's like no, none of that stuff. Anyway, so the Reddit story. Let me give you the gist of it. I did read through this. Basically, she said she broke up with her boyfriend because of her prenup. The case is they've been dating for 2 years, been talking about marriage, and he said that he wouldn't marry her without a prenup because his family is pretty wealthy, owns a lot of assets, and blah, blah, blah. She's done pretty well for herself in her career. Obviously, he's not as rich as her, but she feels like signing a prenup is kind of holding things over her head. And her biggest issue was he was talking about how like they would move into one of his parents' properties once they get married and, live there. But it'd be his parents' properties. And she's like, no, I don't want to do that. I want us to rent or buy a house. And he's like, well, why don't we just move in here and you can save up the money that you would use to actually buy a house and invest in your own property. Mm-hmm. And then she's like, well, if I do that, then it's purchased after the marriage. So you're going to own half of it. But then it's like, I don't think she fully knows what you can do in a prenup, because you can state in your prenup that assets that are paid for by your own money, like if on the loan, a mortgage, it is only your sole name, then that is a solely owned asset for you.
Yeah.
The only time it's a joint asset when it's both of your names are on the loan. So there's so many.
She was concerned about them both sharing the house if they got a divorce or while they were married. Like,
no, she was like, I want my own assets, but if I buy a house myself after we get married, then if we got a divorce, you would own half of it. So I don't think she fully understood what you could do with a prenup. Yeah, but then her big thing was like, why are we moving into a property that your parents own? Because apparently you could move into any property that their parents owned and just kind of live there for free.
Yeah.
And so she's like, I don't want to do that because I think it's a great opportunity. She's like, I don't want to do that because I don't want to feel like I can't decorate my house the way I want. I can't do anything that I want, which I don't think that would have been the case.
I bet that could have been a conversation.
Could have been a conversation.
Were they wanted to live there long term or until they could save up some money?
Well, he kind of wanted to live there long term. And from what she was saying, like he wouldn't budge on it and he wouldn't have a discussion. And if that was the case, then he was wrong there.
Long term, I bet you could find a solution where you can decorate your own house.
Yeah, like, I mean, if you're going to live there long term and the parents are just letting you live there for free, I'm sure they're rich people. They're not going to care if you remodel it. Like, they're not going to care. As long as you take care of the house, they're not going to care.
Yeah.
Unless it's like a family house.
Yeah.
Like a historical family house.
If they had multiple properties, then maybe they could have talked about the type of property.
Oh, I didn't change that, by the way.
I did.
Oh, it must have ended. We must have not wound it all the way back. Anyways, enough about this. So then she like broke up with him because she was like, I'm not doing this. I feel like he's kind of accusing me of being a gold digger and trying to hold it over my head, which I don't think that was the case from the story I read. And then she talked to her in-laws about it after they broke up. And they were like, what do you mean? Those are not the values we raised him with. And so she's like, we're so sorry about that. But in terms of the house thing, it was going to be like a house we give you for a wedding present. Like we were going to gift you whatever house you want as a wedding present.
That's crazy.
Either sell the house and hand you the cash. That was what we were going to do. I don't think he communicated that well. And then as far as the prenup, they were like, yeah, we did mention that that's something to consider, of course, but that's not, we would never say that he needs to be controlling like that from what she was stating. And so I'm like, she doesn't regret breaking up with him. She's like, I feel like I made the right choice and I'm keeping my independence from not signing a prenup. But also I'm like, a prenup...
But you can also be a part of like the decisions on the prenup.
Yeah,
right?
it's not just like a...
It's not like him...
Yeah, but her big thing was the prenup felt too... It didn't feel like a marriage. It felt like too much like a business transaction, and I didn't like that. And I think... Yeah, sure. If that's how you feel, feel that way. But also, I just feel like because I have such a positive view of prenups that like I think that was an overreaction.
Sure. Well, I can understand having that initial reaction when you first hear and see it. But I think if you really think about it, talk about it, look into it, just let it like sit for a bit, that you can come to terms with it and understand that okay, I understand that I am putting like an equivalent between the marriage and the prenup, and like that. It's not supposed to be like a romantic thing. It's just supposed to be
and ultimately
a safety net in a way.
A marriage is a contract at the end of the day. Yeah, it's a contract. What interesting thing is anything involving marriage actually needs to be on paper. It can't be a verbal agreement because you know how some contracts can be oral. Marriage, anything really, it has to be on paper.
Yeah. That makes sense. That's interesting though.
Yeah, so I just feel like, I mean, she's happy with her decision.
If she's happy, she's happy.
But I also feel like she overreacted. I mean, she didn't overreact per se because that's how she felt strongly about that. But she overreacted in terms of, I don't feel like she gave it a fair chance. Yeah. Because you can write a prenup to your advantage. What he wanted to do was protect his family's assets. That was at the end of the day, he felt like he needed to protect. Because he has a family business to protect.
And maybe they've had experiences before where they have like not taken, where they haven't prepared for it. And then someone took advantage of them. And then they just want to make sure. Like,
and I don't know why she put this in the story. She's like, yeah, the in-laws were super sad. My ex's parents are super sad because his brother's wife and brother doesn't want to have kids, and I wanted to have kids, so they were super excited for me to join the family. I'm like, why'd you put that detail in there?
Yeah, that's kind of...
Are you just bragging that, you know, you had a lot of value, but they lost you because you weren't open to a prenup? Like, because I don't look at it that way.
I don't know. I don't know. Like, I'm not a part of the story, obviously, but I feel like maybe they would have been okay to talk about the conditions of the prenup as well.
Yeah, like, I feel like they should. I hate it when prenups are stigmatized, you know, as some, like, you don't trust me, you're trying to, you know, leave me with nothing. That's not what a prenup is. That's not what it is. It's a conversation about assets and financial futures, you know?
Yeah.
Anyways, that's how I feel. What do you feel? I feel like I took on a tangent.
No, like the only thing, well, it's more of a question, and I bet maybe prenups can cover for this too, but if there's a prenup that covers the assets of one person, but the other, like say it's a traditional household, and like the man has a lot of assets, the woman doesn't really, but she raises the kids, like, so if the assets is in the control of the man, because they're protected under the prenup, and then there's some kind of like, you get like a basic salary from this divorce. Like, what do you think about that?
I think that's why you need to read through things and think through things, because here's the thing: if the prenup is ridiculously unfair, courts are not going to uphold it. Like if someone stayed a stay-at-home mom their whole entire marriage, and break is over. Anyways, at the end of the divorce, they they say, hey, no, you get nothing. Then the courts are gonna be like, no, this is ridiculous. She needs to get something in order to survive. She was a stay-at-home mom. But it's like, if you're agreeing to something reasonable, like they're just gonna give you a reasonable alimony, but not a ridiculous amount of alimony after you get divorced, and you agree to it, that's kind of on you, man. You're an adult. You gotta read through the paperwork.
Sure, yeah, because I'm just like, if that ends up with him or whoever is the breadwinner gets a comfortable life, and because they have a career and the other person sacrificed their career to stay at home,
that's why,
then I think there are other components that doesn't go with, you have these assets and I have these assets.
Yeah, but here's the thing, like, if you are going to have a stay-at-home family, then you negotiate in case of an alimony salary. You say, okay, I want to maintain the standard of living I was living, and that is what you need to provide. Then you negotiate that. Yeah. So it's like,
look at you being a good consultant.
Yeah, it's like think things through. Things are not the end of the world. It's a contract. Negotiate. Prenups are not bad. It's just a contract. So talk about it.
Are prenups cool?
Prenups cool. Prenups are cool, but that's not the section. This is the break room.
I know.
Anyways, let's get back to work and draft up some prenups.
Bye.
Bye.